What the hell are you saying, you housekeeper? What, a housekeeper? Yes, you're like a housekeeper in this house. You don't make much money, so you have to do your job as a housekeeper. We won't have any problem without you. I understand, then I would live here without any hesitation. My name is Maria, a 31-year-old housewife. My husband Ken and I have been married for 2 years. We got married through a so-called shotgun marriage, so we have a 2-year-old daughter. My husband and I were originally classmates in high school, and we started dating when we met again in a class reunion. 2 years after we started dating, we found out that I was pregnant and got married. However, we were in our late 20s at the time, and it was quite normal to get married and have a child, so there was no problem. In fact, I got the impression that the birth of our child made that transition to marriage smoother. We lived happily after the marriage. I took full maternity leave so I could concentrate on raising a child and being with her all the time. My husband loved her very much, and when he came home from work, he was always with her. We had a really good atmosphere in our home, but one thing led to the disruption of our peaceful life. I was moving in with my in-laws. My mom and dad wanted me to move in with them. What? Why? They're not that old to care yet, are they? No, they've been telling me that for a long time. Being the eldest son, I'm supposed to live with my parents. Well, I wanted to live with just you and our daughter as a newlywed. So I said no. But now that Katie is 3 years old, I think it's time for us to move in with them. Besides, my mom can help you with the housework, right? I certainly appreciate that. I'm currently working a part-time, but it's not easy to raise a child, work, and do the housework at the same time. And I don't see my in-laws that often, but when I do, they love my daughter and I don't have a bad impression of them. I think we might be able to work things out if we move in together. I had a preconceived notion that living together would be difficult, but after thinking about it calmly, it seems like it would not be a problem. And I agreed to move in with them, but it seems that this decision was wrong. For the first month or two after we moved in together, my in-laws were kind to me. That made me feel at ease. But gradually, my parents-in-law's attitude changed. Maria, can we have dinner a little earlier? I'm sorry, when I pick up my daughter after work, it's usually around this time. If you work part-time, you should come home a little earlier. Well, it's my job, so it's all so half-hearted, and it's really bothering me. Why do they have to say that much? My work usually finishes around 4 p.m. Then I pick up my daughter from daycare, go to the supermarket, come home, and prepare dinner. So dinner time is usually around 6 p.m. It's not particularly late, and my daughter is not home yet at the time. I mean, she doesn't do any housework, so why is she complaining about it? And since she lounges around all day, I'm sure she hasn't even digested lunch yet. And not only my mother-in-law, but also my father-in-law is gradually changing his attitude toward me. You haven't cleaned the bathroom yet? Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to prepare dinner first. You're so slow. Can't you do your chores more quickly? What? You're so useless. My in-laws started to be harsh with me little by little. I couldn't hide my confusion. I knew I couldn't just leave this problem, so I talked to my husband about it. Why are your parents being so cold to me lately? What? It's just your imagination. No, it's not. They get upset and angry over the slightest thing. I knew they wanted to become a better wife. There's nothing wrong with that. My husband said with a nonchalant smile on his face. I was totally wrong to ask him, or rather, I was wrong to marry him. My feelings for my husband gradually began to fade away. After that, my in-laws' attitude became worse and more unreasonable day by day. Hey, give me a massage. I haven't finished washing the dishes yet. Don't talk back to me and come here quickly. When I was forced to give a massage to my mother-in-law and was late washing the dishes, my father-in-law would snap. Hey, the cup I always use hasn't been washed yet. You're so useless. Can't you wash your own cup? But I couldn't understand why my parents-in-law's attitude had become so cold. I had no choice but to ask my husband to speak with them. My husband said it was too much trouble to speak with them. But when I pressed him, he reluctantly agreed to it. So how did it go? What did your parents say? Well, they said something about part-time workers not having human rights. What? What's that? Anyway, they don't like the fact that Miyuki works part-time instead of full-time. But that's what you asked me to do. You asked me to work part-time because you can't raise kids and do housework at all. You told that to your parents, didn't you? Well, I didn't think my parents would change their attitude because of such a thing. So I was so surprised and I didn't have time to tell them that. That's impossible. I really don't know why I married him. If my daughter had been born, I would have gone through with divorce immediately. I believed that for the sake of my daughter, there should be a father. But then, one day, I witnessed a terrible scene. It was the weekend, and I was shopping at the grocery store. When I came home, my mother-in-law was sitting in the living room with my daughter. She suddenly said to her daughter the most unbelievable thing. "Oh, if you were a boy, I would have been more happy. Why did it have to be a girl? It's such a shame." I couldn't believe my ears. What on earth could she be saying to a 3-year-old? "Mother, please don't talk to my daughter like that." "Oh, I didn't know you were home. Please take back what you just said." "No, why should I take back what I meant? What if she gets traumatized?" "She doesn't understand what I said. You're overreacting. I had already lost my patience. It's already enough that you harass me. I won't tolerate you harassing my daughter." "Harass you? When I have ever harassed you? Are you pretend like you don't know? If you're not aware of it, you have a very twisted character. What are you talking about, a housekeeper?" "A housekeeper?" "That's right, you're just a housekeeper in this house." While we were arguing, my father-in-law came into the living room to see what was going on. "It's so noisy, I can't even read the paper. What's going on here?" "She's trying to start a fight with me." "What? She's got a lot of nerve for a housekeeper." "I see, you two called me a housekeeper behind my back. You guys really a bunch of assholes, aren't you?" "Screw you, I don't deserve to be made fun of by a man who works only part-time. You don't make much money, so you have to take care of the house as a housekeeper. And you don't get to challenge your mother-in-law. You're worse than a housekeeper. You should leave already. You got pregnant in order to get our son's money, so he wouldn't run away. That's what a woman with a bad character like you would do. We won't have any problems without you." "You say whatever you want. That's enough. These people need a dose of reality." "All right then, I had no hesitation to leave. I've decided to pack my bags and leave the house with my daughter." Just then, my husband, who had gone fishing, came back. "Oh, Maria, what are you doing with such a big luggage?" "I've been fired as a housekeeper." "What?" "I won't be coming back to this house anymore, so good luck on your own." "Oh, hey." My in-laws are complaining as they watch me leave. Well, now my son's earnings won't have to be exploited. My husband's face was pale, but since he doesn't say anything at this point, so I'm out. I took my daughter and went to my parents' house. The next day I got a call from my mother-in-law. "Hello, do you still want something from me?" "Oh, Maria, I'm sorry for the terrible things I said yesterday." This changing her attitude. She must have had it from my husband. What happened all of a sudden? "I had no idea. I apologize. Please come back." No, you don't need me, right? There's no need for me to come back." "I didn't know that you were bringing money into this house." "I was paying $1,000 a month to my parents-in-law out of my salary. Even though I work part-time, I'm a nurse, so I make a decent amount of money. My husband has a full-time job, but to be honest, his salary is quite low, so most of it is gone on living expenses. That's why I was paying money from my salary to my parents-in-law. In addition, we are saving for our daughter's tuition fees and other future expenses. My husband is a kind of person, but perhaps because he has low self-esteem and he's quite vain. So when I left my parents-in-law's house, he couldn't tell them that his own income was low and that his wife was helping him out with income. But when he failed to protect me, it was over for me. I told my mother-in-law that I would not go back no matter what she said, and hung up the phone. Then I sent a message to my husband saying, "We talk through my lawyer later." I blocked all the numbers from my in-laws. I then suddenly got a divorce. I asked my husband for child support and also for alimony for his silent approval of my in-laws' harassment toward me. My ex-husband is on low salary and now he has to keep up with the payments. Of course, there is no way he could put money aside for my in-laws in the situation. However, his parents were unable to lower their luxury standard and it seems that his saving is decreasing rapidly. They have even started to dip into my father-in-law's retirement fund, and at this rate, it seems that it will be difficult for them to get through the rest of their lives. Well, it's none of my business anymore, but I think they deserve all this. Every time my ex-husband visits my daughter, he asks me to help him out because he's in trouble. One day I said, "If you keep bringing it up, I'm not going to let you see her anymore." He stopped asking me to help him altogether. I, on the other hand, went back to my parents' home and I'm working hard as a single mother. Since my mother takes care of my daughter now, I can work night shifts and my income has gone up even more. I'll continue to work hard and earn a lot of money while watching my precious daughter grow up. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you like. See you in the next video.
Hey, I'd like you to refrain from having your mom over every weekend. I boldly told my husband how I really felt. He sighed loudly. Lisa, you forbid everything. What do you mean? You don't want me to build a house. You don't want my mother to come over. You forbid everything. I didn't mean it like that. Then what do you mean? How long do we have to wait? My name is Lisa. My husband Frank and I have been married for 5 years. We have one common goal. We want to buy our own home. Now that we've saved up a down payment, we're ready to move on from renting. The home I've always dreamt of. After we settle down, we want to start a family and raise our children in a home that we can call our own. Such hopes were growing. But a dark cloud looms over us. My mother-in-law, who had heard about our plans to buy a home, began to make some suspicious moves. I heard you're finally buying a home. Yes, that's right. Have you already decided on what kind of home you want? Yes, I have an idea of what we want. Well, that's great. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, have you been to the showroom near your house? No, we haven't been able to get an appointment there yet. Well, I'll make an appointment for you. We can go together. No, I would like her to refrain from it. I want to inspect the new house with my husband alone. But after that, my mother-in-law kept trying to get involved in our choice of property. She even made unannounced visits. I got you a brochure of land for sale. Thank you very much. My mother-in-law had a dozen of leaflets in her hand. How about this one? It's close to the station and big enough for 2 families. What did she say? Did she say 2 families? I was unable to say anything, and my mother-in-law kept on talking. If the train station isn't close by, it's not convenient for anything. And you better be close to a hospital for when you get old. This property is close to a supermarket. You already have a hard time deciding which one to choose, don't you? At first, she asked if there was anything she could do to help. But before I knew it, my mother-in-law was taking the lead in choosing the house. She's pushing her wishes based on the assumption that she'll live there herself. This is not good. I told my husband everything that had happened that night. Oh, I think she might have mentioned something about living together. What? You want to move in together? Yeah, well, if you will let her. I won't force you, don't worry. I'm feeling a little blindsided by the statement of my husband. If I let her? I don't think so. I can't believe my husband would continue to dilly-dally. I'll be the one who gets the bad end of the stick when I finally tell my mother-in-law that we're not going to live together. Why can't he realize that? Shall we stop building the house? What? Why? Because the way you said it. If I choose not to live with her, she'll know I said no. We're going to be together for a long time, and I don't want things to get awkward. I don't want a house if that's what it's going to take. I can raise my kids in a rental. And we can use the down payment we saved up for our children's education. Then my husband clearly started to panic. Wait a minute. I get it. I'll say no to her and we'll build a house. No, that's fine. You can't even talk to your mother. I've never seen my husband speak up to his mother. Don't worry, trust me. Why are you so desperate? I want to live in my own house and raise my children there. You weren't so enthusiastic when we talked about that. No, I was excited. That's a horrible thing to say. I feel the same way about our children. I see. My husband told me that he would turn down his mother, but I thought it would be impossible because of his personality. But the day after we talked about it, my mother-in-law stopped bothering us. And she apologized to me over the phone. Lisa, I got scolded by Frank. He told me that he wanted to live with you alone. I'm sorry I pushed my opinion on you. My husband really talked to her. He could speak up when it was really needed. But I wonder why I was still suspicious deep down. I told my husband about my mother-in-law's apology, and he had a very satisfied smile all over his face. You see, when I say I'll speak up, I'll do it. What's that look in your eyes? I was wondering if you really said it. Are you doubting me? Isn't that awful? I haven't seen you speak up to your mother in 5 years. And it's not like you actually said it in front of me. That's terrible. I tried so hard. You're right. I'm sorry. I mean, you're sweating like crazy. Why is that? Oh, it's hot. It's kind of hot today, isn't it? It's the middle of winter. By the way, let's get the contract on the house. You want to build a house so bad? Of course I do. That's what we've been saving up for. At this point, I was no longer interested in building a new house. My own home that I had dreamt of so much. I worked so hard to save up the money. But because of my mother-in-law's behavior and my husband's attitude, I felt as if the ladder had been removed. And I took a step back. In the meantime, my husband kept saying that he wanted to build a house. 6 months had passed since the dispute. My husband kept on talking about the house, but I was still not convinced. And my mother-in-law, who had been quiet, had reached the end of her patience. She began to appear at her house frequently. She never talks about buying a house, but her attitude is becoming more and more arrogant. My husband and I both work, and we both have weekends off. My mother-in-law comes to our house every weekend these days. If it was once a month, I could deal with it. But if she comes every weekend like this, I don't feel at ease. My husband seems to be very happy. I'd like to take a rest at least on Saturdays and Sundays. But my mother-in-law comes to our house at 7 in the morning and watches TV with a very loud volume. When I don't get up, she walks back and forth in front of my room. My husband is busy taking care of my mother-in-law, so that should be enough. When I couldn't stand it and got up at 7:30, my mother-in-law would say, "How can you sleep in when you have a guest over?" And she stays until late on Sunday night. My husband doesn't say anything about her behavior. And when I look at him, the word divorce comes to my mind. But I want to avoid divorce if possible. I wanted to talk about what I could do to make things better. Hey, I want you to refrain from having your mother over every weekend. I boldly told my husband how I really felt. Then he sighed loudly. Lisa, you forbid everything. What do you mean? You don't want to build a house. You don't want my mother to come over. You forbid everything. I didn't mean it like that. Then what do you mean? How long do we have to wait for? You just said we. What do you mean? Who else is waiting? What? Didn't you just say we? My husband's face flushed and he started sweating profusely. I didn't say that. Then maybe I heard you wrong. We can't build a house with your mother coming over every weekend like this. Why not? Because I can't rest. If my parents came to stay over every weekend, would you be able to get some rest? Your parents won't come. They have such a nice house. I'm sick and tired of this nonsense. That's not the point. I don't care about the house. I'll ask my parents to stay with us next week. Then my husband raised his voice. Absolutely not. Why not? Because it's too tiring. Don't tell your parents to come over. My mother is the only one allowed here. This is my house too. I'm the head of the house. If you can't do what I say, then get out. Are you serious? You're no use to me at all. I'm done with you. You can't make my mother happy. And she can't live with us if we can't build a house. You promised she wouldn't live with us. What are you talking about? Once the house was built, we could do whatever we wanted, including living with my mother. What do you mean? I told you this much, and you still don't get it? I was going to invite my mother in when the house was built. I knew it. How could my mother-in-law back down so easily? My husband was just plotting with her. I see. That's what this was all about. Okay, I'll leave. I hope you won't regret it. Of course not. Don't even show your face in front of me again. I took the bare minimum of my belongings and headed for my parents' house. My parents were surprised at my sudden return, but when I told them what had happened, they welcomed me warmly. That's what family is all about, right? I guess our relationship was ruined when I couldn't trust my husband at the beginning. Dad, I'm sorry. I know things didn't work out between you two, but work and personal life are two separate things. Yes, I agree. And my husband and I are divorced. No alimony claims against each other. No money disputes, just the division of property. But 3 months have passed since then, and my ex-husband is now on his knees on the ground in front of me. I'm sorry, father-in-law. I'm not your father anymore. Be careful what you call me. Boss, this is a left turn, isn't it? Because I divorced your daughter? What are you talking about? Why did my ex-husband come all the way to my parents' house and get down on his knees? It's because he got an unwanted transfer. My ex-husband and I are employees of my father's company. He seems to think that he was transferred because of our divorce. But his transfer has nothing to do with the divorce. My father said during the divorce that private life had nothing to do with work. Every employee of his company is assigned to a regional assignment for a few years. But it's for the purpose of improving their skills, and none of them were ever transferred as a punishment. But that doesn't seem to make sense to my ex-husband.
Lisa, stop the bus.
I thought you told me never to show my face again.
I apologize. Please.
No, this is not a relegation.
I was the next president at one point, wasn't I?
I can't believe you just interrupted me and said nonsense. You know what? I think you're mistaken. I'm the next president, whether you divorce me or not.
What?
Of course, I'm his daughter. My ex-husband nodded and disappeared from our house. And the next day, he submitted his resignation. People around him told him it wasn't a relegation, but he wouldn't listen to them. A few days later, my ex-husband was found in an unexpected place. I was casually watching a documentary program on the TV, and my ex-husband was on the program. One of the people standing in line for meal donation at a volunteer organization, poorly dressed, was my ex-husband. You never know what life has in store for you. I thought of the word regret that I said to him in a bitter way. I'm sure my ex-husband regrets his actions. The fact that he was holding 2 of the meals in his hand suggests that one of them was for his mother. I don't have all the details, but it seems certain that he's living a life far removed from the one he had before. And I'm currently enjoying being on my own. I'm busy with work during the week, but on my days off, I enjoy my time. It's a blessing to be able to get a good night's sleep. I don't have to be slammed in the morning anymore. I live in such happiness. It's the coldness of her ex-husband which she couldn't explain to people that made her suffer. I'd love to have it as a shield when I say no to my in-laws. Lisa, you did a great job. I hope you can enjoy your time on your own now. When my husband and I got out of the car, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were excitedly asking my husband, "Hey Paul, what's with this car? That's amazing. I'm glad you finally decided to live on our side of society. But still, it's a bold move to buy such a luxury car out of the blue." My husband chuckled and said to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, "This is not my car. It's Jasmine's father's car." What? My mother-in-law and sister-in-law said at the same time, and my parents got out of the car. My in-laws were absolutely stunned when they saw the 2 of them dressed like that. What an expensive looking suit! And I've seen that outfit before. It's such a high-end brand. Why are Jasmine's parents wearing such expensive stuff? My name is Jasmine. I'm a 28-year-old office worker. I married my husband Paul last year. My husband has always been kind to me since we've been dating, and he's always taken good care of me. I was so happy to be able to marry him. We share the household chores because we both work. My husband has lived alone for a long time and is perfect at doing house chores. He's a better cook than I am, depending on what we cook. We support each other and live a very happy life. However, there are people who stand in the way of our happy married life. They are my in-laws. They assume that I'm poor and say whatever they want to bully me. Why do they assume that I'm poor? I think it was probably because of the dinner party where we greeted each other's families before our marriage. My in-laws are a family of 4. My parents-in-law, sister-in-law, and my husband. My father-in-law was a banker and was reasonably wealthy. Everything he wears has a brand name. They seem to think that wearing expensive things was a status symbol. By the way, my husband was the only one in the family who was not interested in such things. He buys second-hand clothes on the internet and wears them to the point that he thinks they are already worth the original price. So when I met my in-laws for the first time, they had personalities and tastes that I couldn't imagine from my husband. I even wondered if my husband was adopted. It seems that the reason why my husband lived alone for so long because he didn't share the same values as the rest of his family members. He started living alone as soon as he entered college. Because they thought that being rich is the justice, when they met me and my parents for the first time, I had a very bad impression of them. My father runs a small factory. As soon as they found out, my in-laws and sister-in-law made fun of him. He runs a factory, and yes, he might be a president, but a factory with a name I've never heard of must be poor for sure.
A big bank where I work would never give him a loan.
To speak in such an abusive manner, even though this was the first time we met, I questioned the character of my in-laws. I would have been furious if my husband had not apologized to me in advance. My parents had also been briefed by my husband on the situation, so my parents were calm even when my in-laws made fun of us.
Well, it's true that we run a small business, but thankfully, we're able to continue working. We're able to pay our employees' salaries.
I wonder how many employees you have. Oh, by the way, I heard Jasmine has an older brother.
Oh, our son is working today. He can't come back here, so he can't join us.
Is he on a business trip or something? Does your brother work for a decent company?
Our son works for my company.
When my father said that, the in-laws all laughed at once.
You mean it's a family business? A family that can't even take a day off must not be running the business very well.
They kept saying terrible things about my family. My husband repeatedly told them to cut the crap, but they wouldn't listen to him at all. So my husband forced them to call it a day. That's why I don't have a good image of my in-laws. And they're making fun of my family too. To be honest, some people might cancel the marriage if something like this happened. But I love my husband more than that, so I decided to marry him. As long as I don't get involved with my in-laws, we can live peacefully and happily. In fact, my husband doesn't like his family either, and I was quite angry at them for making fun of my family, so we didn't go to my in-laws unless we really needed to. But about a year after we got married, I guess they got tired of us not showing up at all. They started to force us to get involved with them. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law came to our house often. They said whatever they wanted to say. Paul doesn't come home at all. Jasmine's trying to stop him from going, isn't she? I'm sure she is, because she would be so jealous of our lives. Well, I don't blame you. We have a different standard of living than the poor. But I hope you will at least have a baby soon. If you don't produce an heir, she's really just a scumbag wife who wants to make a fortune. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were there for a short time from when I came home from work and until my husband came home. I get home early because I have a job that basically allows me to leave on time.
But my husband has to work overtime, so he usually gets home a little before 9 p.m. So within about 3 hours, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law would come over to pick on me.
You live in a really modest apartment. Paul works for a good company. You should live in a nicer house.
My husband and I think it's big enough for us, so...
Not your husband, but you, right? Don't impose your values on Paul. There's a lot of plain stuff in the fridge.
Don't look in the fridge without permission.
You don't have caviar or fine wines?
We don't have anything like that.
Oh, it's so boring. Why did Paul marry this woman? A poor, wealth-seeking, boring woman is a rarity. You could say that. But if you try to touch her money even a little bit, you'll be sorry. We'll erase you from society.
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law would make fun of me, threaten me, ridicule me, and then leave. I would talk to my husband about it, and he would scold them. But they continued to come over without showing any sign of remorse. They ambush me at my apartment when I come home. I felt depressed to come home every time. How on earth could they get tired of picking on me? But my mother-in-law and sister-in-law kept trying to bully me. I had a mental breakdown. I tried to pass the time at a cafe until my husband finished work. Then I would go home with my husband. When my mother-in-law and sister-in-law saw me coming home with my husband, they said,
You're like a pest, taking away Paul's freedom like that.
It's actually more disgusting that they waited outside for 3 hours and tried to agonize me. My husband was so disgusted that he even went so far as to ask my father-in-law for help. My husband talked to my father-in-law, but he is just like my mother-in-law. He said that a poor wife is a rarity for them. If things continue as they are, our marriage will be threatened. I decided to use the last resort. I know it's not something I'm very fond of doing, but my in-laws have made me angry, so I will not relent. Few days later, my husband and I went to visit my in-laws. The in-laws were overjoyed when we informed them that my husband was taking his wife home with him. I was horrified to hear my mother-in-law saying,
I'm so happy to see Jasmine for the first time in a long time.
I don't know what kind of fun it is to be a wife beater. And then we went to my in-laws' house for the weekend. When we arrived at my in-laws' house by car, my in-laws rushed out of the house and excitedly asked my husband,
Hey Paul, what's with this car? That's amazing. I'm glad you finally decided to live on our side of the society. But still, it's a bold move to buy such a luxury car out of the blue, isn't it?
My husband chuckled and said to my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, This is not my car. It's Jasmine's father's car.
What?
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law said at the same time, and then my parents got out of the car. My in-laws were absolutely stunned when they saw the two of them dressed like that.
What an expensive looking suit! And I've seen that outfit before. It's such a high-end brand. Why are her parents wearing such expensive stuff?
And finally, my brother gets out of the car. 6 feet tall, standing like a model. My sister-in-law's eyes changed color when my brother came out wearing the same high-end brand suit as my father.
Who is that handsome guy?
Nice to meet you. My name is Simon, Jasmine's brother. My in-laws were frozen in amazement at my family, which was completely different from the last time they saw me. Seeing this, my husband said, "What the hell are you doing?" He urged them to quickly show my family around the house. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law hurriedly invited my family into the house. They showed them into the living room and said, "We'll have tea ready for you right away." Her attitude was the complete opposite. The in-laws were very curious and asked my parents a question.
How are you able to wear such a luxury item?
So ridiculous. They're so flippant to change their attitude just because of one's appearance. Then my father told the step family members, "My factory is a small one, but the parts we make up the only patent in the world. We receive orders from large Japanese companies as well as foreign companies." My father's answer made the members of my family-in-law's faces turn blue. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law started to be nice to me. My father-in-law was silent the whole time and didn't say a single word. And my sister-in-law was very interested in my brother and talked to him a lot.
What kind of work do you do at your father's company?
I've always been good at English. I'm currently in charge of organizing business meetings with overseas companies. So I spend half of the year abroad.
Well, that's very cool. Are you single, Simon?
No, I'm married.
That's too bad. But I think I'm a better match for you, Simon, than your wife. What do you think? If you're interested, why don't we go out for dinner?
My sister-in-law started making a fierce attack on my married brother in front of me and my parents. To be honest, I was impressed by her mental strength. I can't help but admire for being so audacious. But I'm going to let my sister-in-law go through hell right here at once. My brother looked at me and nodded. Ha 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 ha. Me with an ordinary girl like you? Are you kidding me?
Simon?
You're a funny girl. I mean, are you seriously saying that you're more desirable than my wife? My wife is a former model, highly educated, and the daughter of the president of a famous company. You're lower than her no matter how you look at it. It's funny how half-rich people misjudge their position, isn't it? I don't say anything bad about you, so you should know your size and follow a solid path. My brother's words all hit the spot, and my sister-in-law was in a groggy state, on the verge of fainting. She was so shocked that she could no longer speak. And finally, my father turned to my stepfamily. I don't really care how wealthy the other family is. Money is certainly important, but you can't measure a person's worth by money alone. Let's be human and not be obsessed with money. I'm sorry we were a little mean to you today. My father bowed his head in apology. My family-in-law was completely horrified and bowed to my father quickly. Since then, my family-in-law has never tried to bully me. In fact, they regularly contact me to flatter me. I think it's a bit bothersome that they contact me on a regular basis. By the way, neither my parents nor my brother are the kind of people who dress up in luxury brands and brag about their wealth. They just cooperated with my plan this time. My father likes to wear a suit he has been wearing for a long time, even if it's cheap. He's not interested in luxury. My brother is very kind and doesn't make fun of people. That's why his wife's father likes him so much. He even asked my brother to take over the company because he's a better heir than his eldest son. I'm sorry I put my family through something they're not used to. Everyone was extremely tired on the way home. Thus, I was able to return to a peaceful married life with my husband. I have not visited my in-laws since then, but my husband visits them at least during Thanksgiving and Christmas. After that event, my in-laws have changed their ways. They seem to have lost confidence, or maybe they just repented themselves. They don't brag about being rich like they used to. My husband even says that he feels most comfortable with them now. Well, I'm not sure if they'll go back to their old ways again. For now, I'm just glad that the problem has been successfully resolved. I will continue to take care of my husband and my family. I'll try to live my life with a sense of modesty. They thought they were mounting up, but actually the other family member made money many times more than they did. The in-laws should be ashamed of themselves. I would feel like a small person if I keep trying to mount the poor. I don't think the real rich people would do such a thing. I think it's good that you were able to give your family-in-law a good scolding. I hope you will continue to live every day with your family in good harmony.